Welcome back to Hearing Like Me. I'm Toyosi and I'm a phonak hero. Here we share our latest thoughts about living with hearing loss, the latest phonak hearing aids, and so much more. I wear the Phonak Paradise P19 hearing aids. And today's video is going to be about advocating for people with hearing loss and in the deaf community and what we as a society can do better. Now, self-advocacy is the advocacy that is focused on disabled people speaking up about their own affairs and controlling their own affairs rather than having other people do so for them. This has been something that I have done over the past few years. It all started with me writing a letter to my hearing loss and putting out content in order to help other people and inspire people to also own their stories and show up as their authentic selves. Now, this has not always been easy and there are definitely some challenges that I have faced along the way. There is something about owning your story in such an authentic manner that gives not just you confidence but also gives others around you the courage to speak up and own their stories. And that is why I continue to advocate for myself in order to not just help me but also other people in the deaf community who are struggling as well. So examples of ways I have self-advocated on my social media channel is that I have posted reels. For instance, if Instagram introduces captions, I try to let the people in my audience know that, okay, there's this new feature available, so this is how you can upgrade your content in a way that makes it more accessible for deaf people. I think it's worth always going the extra mile to just educate people, because although people should know these things, they don't. Other ways I've self-advocated is through Q&As on my Instagram stories, Q&As on the Hearing Like Me stories. The Hearing Like Me channel on Instagram actually do have some story takeovers, and through that, deaf people are able to share their stories and able to take questions as well. And I think it's such a great opportunity for people to be able to educate themselves and always know more, because there's always more and there's always an extra mile that we can all go. Legal advocacy is the practice of defending people in the courtroom, and in this case we're speaking more so of deaf people. And what's so interesting is that in July 2021, Katie Rowley, a woman, won her case against the government because she argued that the government did not include subtitles in their COVID briefings. And I'm going to be reading some of the facts of this case. She felt that the government did not care about her unborn baby, or deaf people who use BSL, that is British Sign Language. She was pregnant at the time, and the judge basically found that the provision of subtitles only, that's the lack of sign language at 2 COVID briefings, was a failure of inclusion and served to disempower, frustrate, and to marginalize. What's amazing about legal advocacy is that when you have legal counsel and lawyers on your behalf who can advocate and go to the ends of the earth to basically fight your case and win your case for you, that's amazing, and we haven't always had that. And one thing that I loved as well was that Katie was actually supported by a lot of deaf people on Twitter, because there was a hashtag called Where is the Interpreter. They were all able to raise funds in order for her to go to court and win the case. And I think what's very important to highlight as well is that not every deaf person is always going to want to self-advocate. I wouldn't just always refer to myself as a self-advocate because it's not every time I feel like advocating for myself. So I think find out what works for you and take it on if that's what you'd like to do. Systemic advocacy is about making broad changes in policies and in legislation that will benefit loads of young people in the future and people in general. Now, the current law in the UK that protects deaf people is called the Equality Act in 2010, and it basically makes provision for women and it makes provision for deaf people, but it doesn't make provision for the deaf woman, if that makes sense. So we have lots of issues of intersectionality that the law does not cover, and I think these gaps in the law need to be filled up as time goes along. What's very interesting is that BSL is not compulsory nationwide in schools, and if we did introduce that, then maybe society would be more inclusive and we wouldn't face as many challenges as we do now as deaf people. That being said, thank you so much for watching this video. We'd love to continue the conversation down below, so comment down below what your most inspiring moment of advocating for yourself was as a deaf person, or what was your most inspiring moment seeing someone else advocate for the deaf community. I would love to know. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think this could help. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.